This video, I will talk about the difference between lodging a caveat and registering an interest in land. Now, what is the meaning of caveat and lodging a caveat? A caveat protects someone's proprietary interest in land. Now, I have covered proprietary interest in another video, but down here, let me quickly explain what is proprietary interest. It means that it is interest in land as opposed to personal interest in land. Now, personal interest cannot be, is not caveatable, cannot be registered, and you cannot lodge a caveat over your personal interest, such as a license over land. Now, so caveat protects those interests in land that either they cannot be registered or they cannot be registered yet. A bit of difference there. Now, example, if you are a beneficiary of a trust, now you may never become the legal owner. I mean, as a beneficiary. Some beneficiary will eventually become owner, but some beneficiary may not become owner. So they can actually lodge a caveat to protect their benefits under a trust. Other examples will be interim interest, such as you now hold an option to purchase. So that is an equitable interest in land, which is proprietary. Then you can lodge a caveat. Now, registration is different. Registration means that whoever holds the interest, now the interest becomes legal, and whether it is a person, your name, or it is an organization such as a bank, such as the CPF board, now your name officially enters the title. So when an agent or an investor, when they do a title search, now they are going to see the organization's name printed in the title. So that's the difference there. Now, what is the caveat? A notification of interest in land, which is number one, of proprietary interest. That means not personal interest. Number two, interim or equitable in nature. So I already mentioned the previous slides. Interim will be, example, you bought a condo under construction. So your interest cannot be registered yet until TOP. Now, TOP after a year, CSC after 3 to 4 months, legal completion. Now the construction period is maybe 2.5 years to 3.5 years, depending on how big the project is. So at the point you put down the option fee, all the way until you become legal owner, you've got to wait 3 to 4 years. So in these 3 to 4 years, if you borrow a loan, your mortgagee bank will lodge a caveat to protect is the money that they loan to you. Interest that is not registrable, such as benefits under a trust, which I already mentioned. Now, so what do you do when you lodge a caveat? You go to Singapore Land Authority. Of course, there's a title registry there. All right, fill out a form, and they will ask you, on what ground are you claiming the interest? So you got to list. For example, you will say that, okay, I have an option to purchase, or I'm the party that provides the capital. So this is a notification made in the title registry, or otherwise known as lodging a caveat. So the person or entity that lodge a caveat is called the caveator. Now the caveator, most of the time will be the lending bank, or sometimes equity owner. Equity owner will be like you and I. If we go and buy a house, then we are the equity owner. Now if we take a loan, then we will have a mortgagee. So the lending bank basically just protect the money it loans out. Equity owner basically will do it after they obtain the OTP. So they will just have to make sure that, okay, nobody come and buy this property again. Okay, now if you don't take loan, then nobody will advise you to lodge caveat. So what is registration? Registration happens for sale and purchase. Registration will happen on the day of legal completion. Now, of course, if you are lodging other deeds, for example, you agree with your neighbor that you're not going to build taller and all that. Now that will happen like many years ago. Today, hardly anybody lodge this kind of deeds. But in terms of theory, then you need to know that somebody can lodge a deed, like trust deed, for example, okay, and register it into the title, right? Okay, so now for sale and purchase, it happens on the day of legal completion. Now the buyer will then register his legal ownership with the registry. New title will be issued, old one surrendered. Then other legal interests will also be recorded, such as mortgagee, which is a bank, CPF charge, for example. If you have taken out your own savings from the CPF to buy the house, then CPF will want to register the charge so that it appears in your title. Now we will have interest that is non-registrable but caveatable. Now you can have a situation where you have a proprietary interest, but the interest is not registrable. For example, an equity loan. Now usually an equity loan is secured by the potential equity in a piece of real estate. Now let me explain this. Say 10 years ago you bought a condo. Number one, you bought it at below $1 million, and 10 years you would have paid probably about half of the mortgage. So all those money that you pay to the bank, of course, in the form of interest, is expended. But when you pay back the principal sum, that becomes your potential equity. Now, 10 years later, let's say the market value of the condo, the 10-year-old condo, is 1.3 million. You bought 1 million, it becomes 1.3. Let's say you have paid back, say 150,000 of your loan, which is also your potential equity. So add together, the bank may grant you a checkbook, an equity loan that is maybe 300,000. So, but unfortunately, the second bank will never be the mortgagee. So they cannot register their interest as the mortgagee. So usually the charge means the right to demand payment from you will be registered, will be registered as a caveat, not registered into your title, but notified as a caveat. Now, other interests allowed under Singapore legislation will be the state, the government of the day, can lodge caveat against the sale proceeds of foreigners who are asked to sell either their land or restricted property which they obtain illegally. So the caveat basically is to make sure that the state will garnish the sale proceeds. Let's say there's any fine imposed. So then the sale proceeds, the fine will be taken from the sale proceeds by way of a caveat. Now, MC. Now, if you're not an MC, if you're not a management corporation, you may not be able to lodge caveat against maintenance fees that residents or property owner promise to pay you. So now, in a rare situation when the road is a private road owned by a different company, let's say it's non-strata. So now the private company that wants to collect the maintenance fee to maintain the road may not have the advantage of lodging caveat because such positive covenants are not proprietary in nature. So I have covered that in another video called Proprietary Rights versus Personal Rights. Go and find that video to understand positive covenant more. Okay, now there are also interests that are non-registrable and non-caveatable. Unfortunately, now those are personal interests such as license. Now even temporary occupation license may look like very big, such as worksite office, worksite canteen, dormitory, etc., etc. So these are all personal interests that you cannot register in the title, you cannot lodge a caveat. Right of first refusal in the tenancy agreement or in any contract are also considered non-proprietary. So you cannot lodge caveat over it. Even though you're very powerful, for example, when you have the right of first refusal, so if, let's say against the landlord, so if the landlord were to market the property for sale, for example, so any offer, price offer that the landlord receive, the landlord must offer to you. Say, okay, I have outsider who wants to buy my house for 1.2 million. So Sam, do you want to match? Do you want to match? Okay, so now if I say okay, I want to match, so then what happened? The landlord will have to go back to the person who offer 1.2 to say that, hey, 1.2 I can only sell to my tenant. So, but as a tenant, can I lodge a caveat against my landlord? No, because it's non-proprietary in nature. Now, covenants, which I already explained in the previous slides, unless the action is instituted by the management corporation, if not, if you are a private entity, you may have a bit of problem. I don't think you can lodge caveat. Okay, now if let's say a tenant owe you rent, you can't lodge caveat against it. This is common law debt. And if a customer owe you commission, you also cannot lodge caveat against their property. Now, there are other related topics such as proprietary, I mentioned already, proprietary interest in another video, equitable interest in land, leasing versus license. So you just have to wait patiently. I will record them. And thank you for watching. See you again.